Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Season 6, Episode 32, overall number 307 of Live with CDP Sports Talk, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Gulf Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, or give them a call at 519-824-0210, or email them at info@barrycullen.com as well. Also, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk is on weeknights at 8 p.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM in Metro Atlanta, the home of Southern Talk and Sports. Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everyone's doing well on this, what's today? Tuesday, August 8th, 2023. Summer is just flying by, and I'm just waiting for my guests to come on too, guys. So just bear with me. I'm just having a technical problem with Facebook, but I think we've got that fixed. But I'm looking forward to my guest today. I just met him at the Bills scrimmage on Friday night at Highmark Stadium. I still want to call it Rich Stadium at Orchard Park. They've had a few names for that stadium, but his name is Ajay Cybulski, and he is a podcast host and a writer for Buffalo Ramblings. And also he's a former contributing writer with Syracuse.com as well. So AJ is going to come on today and talk a little bit about his career in media and also a little bit about the 2023 Buffalo Bills. Good evening, AJ. How you doing?
Good. How are you? How you doing?
I'm not too bad on this. I can't believe it's already August 8th.
I know. Summer's flown by. It's actually quite remarkable. I just graduated, so it's weird. Usually I'm getting ready to go back to school, but now, this year it's not the same. Obviously not going back to school. So, yeah, a little different this summer.
Well, congratulations, and it was kind of nice to meet you the other night when we were at Highmark Stadium. I still want to call it Rich Stadium and New Era Stadium. It's had a few names over the years, but hey, what were your thoughts on that blue and red scrimmage and the attendance the people that were there on Friday?
I mean, yeah, the attendance is always just absolutely remarkable. I think, Bills Mafia and the fan base here is obviously one of the most well-respected and one of the most diehard fan bases in the whole entire NFL. And I thought the scrimmage went well. Obviously, they're not going to show a lot. It's early still, relatively. They still have 3 preseason games and stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, I saw some good things from the first team offense, good things from the first team defense. Just a bunch of overall. I can get more in depth if you'd like, but overall, just a solid day with not many takeaways. I actually do get more takeaways from going up to training camp and seeing the practices. So that's just my honest opinion.
Okay. Well, being involved with the CFL and the Toronto Argonauts, can you just briefly talk a little bit about linebacker Shane Ray, and do you think he can make this roster or even the practice roster possibly?
Yeah, I think he might have a chance to make the practice squad. There's so many guys ahead of him. I mean, he's going against guys like Boogie Basham, who they've drafted, who I think is basically a lock at this point. He's been getting a lot of run with the twos. His versatility's been apparent so far through camp. They have Shaq Lawson, who they like. They re-signed him. He came back to Buffalo in the offseason. Jordan Phillips is another guy. AJ Epinesa, Greg Rousseau, Von Miller. So you have a bunch of guys. Leonard Floyd. There's already a lot of talent across the defensive line. I find it hard to believe that Shane Ray can make the final 53-man roster, but does he have a path to the practice squad? Maybe if he can show enough in these upcoming preseason games, if he can show a flash or something like that. Obviously, everybody knows he was a first-round pick, took about 4 years off. He won a Super Bowl with the Broncos with Von Miller. So he's kind of trying to have a comeback story, rejuvenate his career. We'll see. Maybe he does make a case, and during the preseason he does a good job and makes some splash plays. But I don't know. It'll be time will tell with that one.
Okay. Wanted to ask you this as well. I didn't get a chance on Friday when we were talking. How big of a loss is it with Naheem Hines out for the year with the ACL injury?
Yeah, I don't think the loss is necessarily huge. I mean, I think they did a good job, the Bills, this year of bringing in talent such as Deontay Hardy, who was an all-pro punt returner in 2019. And when they drafted Khalil Shakir from Boise State in the 5th round, not in the last draft, but the draft before, the draft that was just a couple months ago, so a 2022 NFL draft. He has experience in the return game as well. So I think they have a good 1-2 punch there that can, and they also signed Darrington Evans, who has a return game ability. He played at Appalachian State. He did some return kickoff returns for them in college. So he hasn't done much in the NFL, but he still brings that experience. So yeah, I think Naeem Hines, maybe he could have been a factor in the offense this year in the passing game. And he would, he's been a good player throughout his career in terms of catching the ball out of the backfield and stuff like that. And he obviously, last year with the 2 kickoff returns in the same game right after the DeMar Hamlin situation, that was pretty special. But it's a loss, but it's not a loss that they can't recover from. And I think they're not really going to miss a beat. But yeah, it hurts the special teams and maybe the dynamic he would bring on the offensive side of the ball in terms of his pass catching ability.
Overall, what's the health like in training camp so far? Anybody nicked up yet?
Oh, yeah. The health's been pretty good. Deion Dawkins actually had a brace. He left practice yesterday, came back on the field with no pads. He might have just got his hand caught, maybe like a sprained thumb, minor injury with Deion. So he has a minor, injury going on there. Cam Lewis limped off the field. He's a guy that's looking to make a roster spot. His versatility is really shown on special teams, at nickel, at the safety spot. He can do it all. I think that's something that can get you a jersey on game day to show that ability to be versatile and play in multiple positions. But he, again, left with an injury. I don't know how severe. Dawkins is day to day. But no, not much else on the injury front. Tommy Doyle's obviously coming back from an injury, an ACL injury he suffered last year, so hopefully he can get ramped up and maybe make a push for this roster. Again, very versatile piece for the Bills offensive line. And then you got Von Miller, who's still in the PUP, has yet to be activated. Jordan Phillips is a guy that got re-signed this offseason. That's, he's played his best football in a Bills uniform. He is just got activated from the PUP after coming off a rotator cuff injury. So he's been getting some solo individual work at practice the last couple of days, ramping up him to get ready for the season. And yeah, that's about it. So far, so good in terms of the injuries.
What are your thoughts on Von Miller possibly being back for week 1 against the Jets?
I could see it. It's hard for me because I think he's a very positive manifester. I think he expects the most, out of himself. He recovered back in 2014 or 2015, whatever year it was, like 8 months after, and returned and had a really good season. Obviously, he's 33 now, a little bit older, in his early 30s. So that's going to play a factor into how quickly he can recover from it. If I were the Bills coaching staff or the trainers, I would rather work him back slow. You brought in Leonard Floyd for a reason. You have AJ Epinesa, Shaq Lawson, Greg Rousseau. Greg Rousseau has the potential to really, carve out a big role this year for this team and get hopefully that double-digit sack number that he's yet to achieve. So yeah, I think the best process with Von is getting him back as slow as you can, kind of, putting on the PUP to start the year, missing the first 4 weeks, and then ramping him up in week 5 or week 6 and hopefully return like mid-season. I think the Bills would rather have him fully 100% than rush him. I don't want him out there if he's not, fully himself.
What's the overall mood right now in Buffalo towards this 2023 Bills team? Obviously, they had a great regular season again last year, 13-3. They got by Miami, and then the Cincinnati game, they just did not play well in that game at all. I knew Cincinnati was a good football club, but they basically went in there and took care of business against Buffalo.
Yeah, it's weird because if you talk locally and the people around the area, fans, local media, I think there's still there's a sense of urgency this year for sure. I think it's obviously each year you keep falling short and you feel like you have the pieces in place and you have, Stephon Diggs getting upset and rightfully so with, just the amount of times they've fallen short when he feels like they have the roster, the coaching staff to get it done when it matters. So I think the sense of urgency this year has definitely picked up. I think from the national perspective, I think there's a lot of talk about the Jets and Dolphins just because of the fact that the Jets brought in Aaron Rodgers, who's a big name, big market. The Jets are a big market. Same with the Dolphins trading for Jalen Ramsey, who unfortunately is going to be out till about December. So should miss more than half the season. But yeah, I think from the fan perspective, I think there's a lot of hope and confidence. I think a lot of people still think they win this division in terms of around the area, but on a national level, I think there's a little more scrutiny with the coaching staff, with Sean McDermott being a defensive mind, not being that offensive-minded coach. It's become popular in the NFL. So it's a balance. There's two sides to it going on right now. Me personally, I think this is the best depth the Bills have had. I'm still worried about that offensive line. And if Josh Allen does get the true help that he can from his playmakers and run game, that'll be the biggest determining factor for me, as well as the loss of Tremaine Edmonds, which isn't as important as some people may have made it out to be. I think Terrell Dodson or Terrell Bernard can fill in for that role. With you have such a good secondary with Matt, you're playing next to Matt Milano. Your defensive line's the best I think it's ever been in terms of depth and pass rushing power. So yeah, the Bills are a good team. I think they're the best roster in the AFC East, but the Jets and Dolphins definitely closed the gap this offseason.
How does the secondary look right now with Poyer and Trey White and all that? And do you feel their secondary will be one of the best in the league this year?
I do. I think that'll continue. I think Trey White coming back from an ACL again. Last year was his first season. He had to get over that mentally. It was his first ever ACL tear. I think that prohibited him. You saw him against the Detroit Lions only go out for one drive and then didn't play the rest of the game, which obviously was not a physical thing. It was more of a mental barrier that he had to get through. This, during the training camp, he's been working his tail off. You see him kind of returning to that all-pro form. Will he be the same exact player? Probably not. But I think he can take it up a notch from last year, and he still didn't have a bad year by any means. Still had a really good season. And then on the opposite side, you have a three cornerback competition going on. You have Dane Jackson, Christian Benford, and Kyer Elam. All three guys have had pretty good camps. Benford's really made a late case the last couple of days here. Matt Perino from Syracuse.com reported he had a couple picks the last couple of days, so he's looked the part. But the Dane Jackson has the consistency. He's been in this defense for a long, long time under Sean McDermott. Started like 15 games last year. Was the cornerback one with Trey White out, and then obviously Kyer Elam, the 2022 first-round pick, another guy that he has that high ceiling. He shows a little bit more of inconsistency in terms of zone coverage. He's a better press man guy. Let the pass rushers in the front seven get to the quarterback and let him go on an island. Very physical. Very good awareness in terms of where to be in man coverage. Still struggles in zone. I think hopefully they can get that to a level where they're confident. But I think that could be a by committee approach this year based on matchup, based on teams you're going against. If you're going up against a Miami Dolphins that have the speed on the outside, that maybe, Tua is not the most mobile quarterback in terms of getting outside the pocket. He's more of that stationary pocket passer. Sending 6, sending 7, putting Elam out there on an island against Tyreek Hill, who he did really well against last year when they went up against each other. I think there's all those different kind of conversations you can have in terms of matchups. And then obviously the secondary, Poyer, Hyde, hopefully back to full health this year. They seem like they are. Jordan Poyer still wearing that brace on his elbow. He suffered that injury last year, played through it, obviously. But yeah, the secondary is looking good. I think Taylor Rapp is also a guy that can play into the mix. He comes over from the LA Rams on a cheap deal, Super Bowl champion, brings that veteran experience, very physical. Teron Johnson, another guy that again plays into the secondary. So if there's a group that's the strongest on this roster, I would probably go with the secondary. But the tight end room is looking really good, and I really like what I've seen from them too. So yeah, secondary is looking good.
The pass rush. How do you feel about the pass rush going into this season?
Oh yeah, dude. I made this prediction back in April, May. I think there's potential, and there hasn't been a 10-sack player on this Bills team under Sean McDermott or Brandon Beane when they've been here. The last person to do it was Lorenzo Alexander in 2016 to have 10+ sacks.
Wow.
I think there could be two guys on this roster that hit that 10+ sack mark with Vaughn, depending on when he comes back. And I think Greg Rousseau, Leonard Floyd both have that potential too. AJ Epinesa, again, a guy that had 6.5 sacks last year, has had a really good training camp. Again, if he gets the a good snap share and he gets in the rotation and can figure out and carve out a role again for himself, I think there's potential for 2 of those 4 guys to really get 10 sacks, get pressure. You're going to see a Sean McDermott defense that's more aggressive than years past, obviously with Leslie Frazier stepping away for a year. And kind of taking a break from coaching. I fully expect this defense to be aggressive, and I am. The Bills pass rush has let them down in years past. I think this year, I mean, it's got to hit eventually, right? You keep bringing in these guys year after year after year. I think on the interior, they're the best they've ever been, and on the outside, they're also the best they've ever been.
All right, and I want to bring this up as an outsider as well. The Steph Diggs, Josh Allen stuff going on. Is there anything that the fans should be worried about in Bills Mafia this year with Steph Diggs and Josh Allen?
Oh, no, there's nothing that anyone should be worried about. Diggs has looked the best player on offense again in camp. They've been on the same page, having fun. They burned that bridge. I think the Bills did a really good job putting Stephon Diggs on the podium the first day of camp, kind of letting him speak his mind, tell him, look, it is frustrating. I want to win a Super Bowl. That's my ultimate goal. We've gotten so close. I feel like we have the talent and the roster, blah, blah, blah. And when you don't get there, it's hard, and you need to have those honest conversations. And he credited Sean McDermott for allowing him to have those open conversations. The one thing that the Bills have done since Stephon Diggs has been here is they've allowed him to be himself, and I think that's continued. It's like taking the good with the bad. Stephon Diggs is a diva. Wide receivers are divas.
Yes. Yes.
But that's what you expect from a guy that, he really wants to win. And it's not about targets. It's not about that. He said that wasn't it. It's strictly about just winning. And I think not being able to getting over the hump when he feels like he's been in a Super Bowl window now for a couple of years. He felt like he was in a Super Bowl window in Minnesota, and they weren't able to get over that hump either. So I think he doesn't want history to repeat itself, and he wants it so bad that he's making sure that he's staying on top of things, talking about what he's seeing, what he wants from the offense. And no worries from that end. I think once the season starts, that connection will be right back to where it was last year.
All right. AJ, I just want to ask you a couple of questions about yourself since my show is based in Ontario, but it's internationally as well. Can you just tell my audience a little bit about yourself, and when did you first take an interest in media, and who were some of your media influences growing up?
Yeah, so I don't know. So funny story. I actually went to SUNY Brockport, which is a school in my state. I'm from, south of Buffalo. So New York College, it's around the Rochester area, which is about an hour and a half away from Buffalo. Actually, still a lot of Bills fans in that area, but it's more, you get a lot of Long Island kids too. So you get a good Giants, Jets kind of mixture in there too. A couple of my roommates were Giants fans. But yeah, I've liked the media. I've liked the Bills my whole life. I've liked football my whole life. And that's kind of where it started. And then once I got into high school, I really, enjoyed writing in terms of just, writing about sports or, doing things like that, listening to WGR 550, the local radio station, taking in as much content as I could. Then I was fortunate enough to randomly run into Matt Perino at Bills training camp when I was like 17, 18 years old. He was just starting on the Bills beat at the time with Syracuse.com. And, we have a good relationship to this day. I talk to him, once a week, couple times a week. He's a great dude. But yeah, I've always just loved football. I've loved writing. I loved news media, being able to ask players questions, all that stuff. I think it's always been something that I've been good at. So I kind of want to pursue that and see where it goes. Like I said, I've interned with Syracuse.com as a writer. Last year covering the team, interned at Cover One, which is like an analytic kind of Bills site that I cover the Bills strictly, a lot of draft stuff. But yeah, and then now I'm at Buffalo Rumblings. So it's been a journey. I'm hoping to stick with it. It's a hard industry to get into. I'll tell you that. It's a challenge. It's not the easiest thing. The money's not the greatest, but if you work hard enough and you have a dream, I think you can ultimately get to where you want to be.
Yeah, my story is a little different than yours because I'm doing it like an undrafted rookie in sports. A couple of years ago, I got a taste of broadcasting, and it led to camera work, and it led to my podcast and some other media work. And everybody in the industry has been so great with me, and nobody's judged me based on my age or not having the broadcasting diploma. Obviously, I'm doing it the harder way, but this is something I have a passion for, and this is something I want to continue to pursue.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm the same way. Yeah, it doesn't matter as long as you're happy and you're doing what you love. I mean, that's truly what matters. And at the end of the day, I think when you do, when you're doing the things you truly love, success will come with that. And just being, always show integrity, be true to yourself, and it'll usually work out in your favor. You need a little luck along the way, but yeah, I mean, and some of my media influences I see on the bottom.
Yeah.
I was actually a meteorologist major on my first, so I want to be a weatherman for like one semester.
Wow.
I live right near Lake Erie, so I wanted
Okay.
to. I really was fascinated by lake effect snow. I lived through Snowvember where I missed like 5 days of school. We had like 8 feet of snow at our house.
That was
And
insane.
that was always an interest to me. Then I stepped into the classroom and started learning like physics and stuff. I'm like, screw that. I'm not a science guy. I'm a math and writing guy. And that's when I was like, okay, like, Sal Capaccio is one of the people I really look up to.
Yes.
Dan Fates. There's a lot of guys, Mike Catalana. There's a lot of guys in the Buffalo media specifically that I really look up to. And on the national media, I love Stephen A. Smith, even though he's very controversial. I think is a great entertainer. So yeah, those are just a couple of the people that I look up to and want to be someday.
And even though I'm not from Buffalo, the Buffalo media has been great with me. The Bisons, the Bandits, and the guys from WGR 550. And if I did get a job in the States in the radio industry, I would be okay with it being in the Buffalo area because it's such a nice area. And the guys there have been really good with me, especially you mentioned Sal Capaccio as well. And John Murphy came on my show a couple years ago. And hopefully he'll recover from his stroke as well, because him and Van Miller have been the voices of the Buffalo Bills for most of the franchise's history as well.
Yeah, great guy. I love listening to him. I've listened to him call a lot of games throughout my life. He's a really good person and announcer. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the Buffalo media is great. I love a lot of good people out there that work hard and make good content and. Yeah, I'm hoping to one day be a part of that, but absolutely.
All right. We'll get back into the Bills here. What were your overall thoughts quickly again on the 2022 Buffalo Bills season, both regular season and playoffs?
Yeah, again, I think a lot to be desired. There was a lot of missed opportunities. I mean, look, they went 13-3, lost 3 games by 8 points, dealt with a multitude of injuries. They were relatively healthy in years past. I think the injury bug really hit them last year. You lost Hyde week 2 to the season. You had the injury scare with Dane Jackson in week 2 where he was carted off the field with a neck injury, but ended up being okay and returning. Obviously, the DeMar Hamlin thing, Spencer Brown. Dealt with a back injury all season. Deion Dawkins missed some games. Daquan Jones, their best interior presence last year, missed the Cincinnati game in the playoffs. So there was a lot of injuries. I'm not here to make excuses. Gabe Davis, dealt with the high ankle sprain. Josh Allen sprained UCL. So I could go on and on about the injuries. But yeah, I think there was still a lot to be desired. I think Ken Dorsey did a good job in year 1. I think he has stuff to improve on, his red zone spacing, his creativity at times. I think he gets too comfortable with what he does best, and that's kind of taking the deep shot and making the big play. I think he needs to get a little bit more out of his comfort zone and stick to like the underneath stuff and let Josh trust his eyes and kind of reeling him in, allowing him to not make as many mistakes, turning the ball over, fumbling the ball, stuff like that. But defensively, they were solid last year as well. I mean, I can't really complain about the defense. They held the Bengals to 27 points. That's a really good offense. The Bills just didn't come out offensively last year, and they put up 10 points in the playoffs. So overall, really good season. 3 losses, 8 points. And then I feel like they just ran out of gas. They went through a lot last year with the Kimpagula. Dawson Knox's brother passed away. The snowstorms. They played 3 away games in 10 days and won all 3 of them. So yeah, there was a lot of freakish stuff last year. And Sean McDermott said himself at the end of the year, like, this is the most I've been through as a head coach of a football team. So I think this year it kind of rejuvenates them. They kind of lost traction. They beat a Skylar Thompson-led Dolphins team at home in the playoffs by 3 points, and the defense allowed 31. So they were not playing their best football last year at the right time. So hopefully this year that changes.
Allen never had surgery, so does he look like he's fully recovered from that injury then?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he's fully recovered. He actually, other day at practice, he went and got it worked on for like every day before practice. When I was at training camp all last week, and every day before practice, like the team stretches, he kind of would just do his own like shoulder elbow work with the trainer to the side. But I mean, that's just typical, like getting that arm loose and getting it ready to throw. I don't think there's any ill effects from the injury, and he's been on point all training camp. So I haven't really seen anything. I don't know if you saw the clip on Twitter, but there was a bullet he made to the front pylon on the left side of the field. Teron Johnson with Trey White, they were playing like a zone coverage. Teron Johnson was trailing. Allen just fired a bullet right in between them both. And that was the same day he kind of got that elbow worked on mid-practice and left practice for about 20 minutes. But then he came back and then, looked totally fine. Nothing was hindering him. So
I'm old school, but I see so many similarities between Josh Allen and Hall of Fame quarterback John Elway, just with their athletic ability and also the cannon of an arm. And I just see so many. I don't know what you think of that, but that's how I look at Josh Allen as a John Elway type.
Yeah, that's perfectly fair. I think there's a lot of comparisons for Josh. Josh is unique in his ability to run the ball, and I think his athleticism. I don't think there's many quarterbacks that can hurdle guys, stiff arm guys. I think that's where he separates himself, and why I think he's kind of a one-of-one guy. I think Patrick Mahomes obviously is the better quarterback. I think you can argue Joe Burrow is right up there as well. I think from a pure pocket presence. But there's not many guys in the NFL history that have been able to do what Josh Allen does. But, Dan Marino comes to mind, John Elway, Peyton Manning a little bit, Brett Favre in terms of like the gunslinger mentality with the turnovers. You got to live and die with it. So there's a lot of comparisons out there. But, I mean, he's being compared to these greats, which is something Bills fans haven't seen for the past 2 decades. So to have a guy that's, on the Madden cover and top 10 in the NFL top 100, list according to players and doing a bunch of stuff like that in commercials and passing for 4,000 yards each year with 700 rushing yards and 45 total touchdowns each year. Like it's definitely a breath of fresh air for many Bills fans who dealt with the E.J. Manuels, Tyrod Taylors,
Trent Edwards, J.P. Lossman.
Yes, yeah, all
yes,
those
you
guys.
So it's hard to find a franchise quarterback, and I'm hoping. Well, obviously they have in Josh Allen, and I'm hoping the same thing with the Eagles and Jalen Hurts. We thought Carson Wentz was going to be the guy, but he never was the same quarterback after that ACL injury. So I'm hoping Jalen Hurts can continue to play at a high level because it really starts with the quarterback and then your offense line and D lines as well.
Yeah, the only thing I'm worried about Jalen Hurts is I think once that contract kicks in and they're not able to put as much talent around him, I don't know if he'll be able to keep up that production. And I mean, look, I think his run last year in the playoffs was phenomenal. I think he did a really good job I think he had a better postseason than regular season. Like I think the regular season, he just was efficient, didn't turn the ball over, used his playmakers to the best of his ability, had a great offensive line. And a great defense that made plays and turned the ball over for him on the flip side, along with an easy schedule and a lot of luck. So the Eagles, I think, with two new coordinators, I think it's going to be a tougher path for them this year. I think they have a tougher schedule. But I think Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback. He's a top, 5-7 quarterback in this league for sure. And one of the best dual threats in the NFL.
Well, and getting A.J. Brown, too. It's like with Josh Allen. Allen was okay, but once he got Steph Diggs, that really made a difference as well in his game. And A.J. Brown with Devontae Smith, and then you got Dallas Goedert. So I think the Eagles are still going to be a Super Bowl contender, but it's going to be a hard road to get back. I believe the last NFC team to go to 2 Super Bowls in a row was the 74-75 Vikings. So it's not been done.
That shows you how hard it is. Yeah,
it's really hard. I believe so. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But as for your Bills, obviously I wanted to talk to you about the Bills more. What are your thoughts on Damar Hamlin? Obviously what happened last year in Cincinnati, and how does he look so far in training camp from what you've seen?
Yeah, he had a nice interception the one day and returned to the house. And obviously, the crowd's been very interactive with Damar. Every day he came out of the tunnel, there's a loud eruption. People are just happy that he's able to play football again, quite frankly. And it's kind of a miracle. Sitting back and thinking about that Monday night game and where he was at and how he died on the field, and they brought him back to life, and now he's out there playing football again so quickly. I think it'll be a mental thing for him, but I mean, hey, they play Saturday, and that'll be his first real live action with physical tackling and stuff like that. But yeah, Damar, I think he's a roster lock. He shows depth. He's been working with the special teams, so he has had a really good camp, and I've liked what I've seen from Damar.
And he was obviously cleared by the team's doctors, his own doctor. And if this is what he wants to do, then I'm all for it. And even if he had said this was enough, I'm going to retire, I would have supported him either way. Hopefully, we never see something like that on the field again. That was pretty scary.
Yeah, he mentioned his press conference was so good when he just talked about Buffalo and how much Buffalo means to him and the community and his family and friends and teammates, how they've really, built him up and gotten him to where he is right now. It's super cool. His ability to, spread awareness for AED and all that stuff. So just overall CPR and stuff like that as well. So just overall made the best out of a very scary situation. And you can tell DeMar Hamlin, not only is he a good player, but he has a really good heart, and hopefully he can make some plays this year on the football field.
Absolutely. And this leads to my next question I wanted to ask you, Alex. What are your thoughts on the Bills' offseason with free agency? They didn't do a lot, and the NFL draft. And do you feel the team addressed some of their needs?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think that they actually, and this is what going back to the point from the national perspective and why some people don't think if you don't, you're not consuming Bill stuff 24/7. People don't think that the Bills did a lot this offseason, but they actually did. Quite frankly, probably the most they've ever done in terms of adding that depth. They brought in Connor McGovern to replace a very, very below average Roger Saffold, who just struggled all year, could not. He just was bad, straight up bad. Just not a good football player. He came from Tennessee last offseason, signed a 1-year deal. He's still a free agent to this day. But yeah, they got Connor McGovern, who was 13th in pass protection last year, according to PFF, to man up the left side. You have Dawkins returning. You draft Osiris Torrance in the second round to bolster that right side. You have Ryan Bates, who offers that position versatility, can be your backup center, can be your backup right guard, can be your backup left guard. So I like what they did, adding Osiris Torrance. He was thought to be at one point a first-round pick, falls to the Bills at the end of the second round. And I think his ability to maul people, his anchor, his ability to pancake guys in space, it'll help the run game and the pass game 100%. The biggest, concern is the right tackle position with Spencer Brown, but he's had a good camp. One bad day, but the rest of the camp I thought he's done good. It's not as some Bills fans are so worried about it. I think it's a worry in terms of if one of those guys goes down, who's behind them. But it's so hard in this league to get tackle depth. You add Damian Harris for the 1-2 punch with James Cook. Really like that signing. Again, the Bills have struggled to pound the ball in the red zone with their running backs. Adding Damian Harris, adding Latavius Murray are two guys that have been able to find the end zone, have a nose for the end zone. So they did well there. Bringing in Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield, again, roster depth. You bring in the Dalton Kincaid aspect. He's been one of the best players in the field. Again, looks like a veteran, even though he's played in the NFL for 2 weeks and hasn't even played in a actual game yet. But he's looked the part. He's a really good player. And then obviously defensively, middle linebacker, they didn't go out and spend money. They drafted Dorian Williams in the third round, but he's been working majority at weak side linebacker, backing up like Matt Milano, second and third team, strictly special teams. But Terrell Dodson, Terrell Bernard is kind of the battle going on right there. I'm confident in both guys. I think both of those guys, when you have such a talented team around you, it's good. And then Leonard Floyd, Taylor Rapp, even David Edwards again on the offensive side of the ball, another guy that won the Super Bowl last year with the Rams and started for them all year. So, yeah, they've done a really good job. The draft, I think, did really well. Again, Justin Shorter was the 5th-round pick. He's going to be a guy that gets a jersey every game just for his special teams aspect. And he was a top 30 visit, so they really liked him. So, yeah, draft, free agency, I think they've done a really good job, and they have addressed some of their needs. Again, the only concern for me is the depth at offensive tackle.
Do you see Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox being a 1-2 punch as the tight ends or at the same time on the field?
It's going to be a lot of 12 personnel, a lot of 12 personnel, Chris. I think they're going to be able to utilize those guys. Ken Dorsey, that's kind of his bread and butter, and they've been trying to. Quentin Morris was a guy that was undrafted last year and kind of came in and kind of did some things, but not enough for obviously to carve out a consistent role day in, day out for this team. But yeah, the usage of 12 personnel. Dalton Kincaid can line up in the boundary, in the slot, in line. He can chip and help the right tackle and. Get out in space. He's very good hands. And then Dawson Knox is kind of that guy that great after the catch, and Dalton Kincaid is too. But they're different football players. Knox is a better blocker, more physical, great in the red zone. And then Kincaid just, such a good receiving weapon for Josh Allen that 1-2 punch, I think, could be, not exaggerating, actually, top 5 in the NFL in terms of tight end duos.
Okay. That leads to my next question. Tell us who are non-Bill fans, who they should keep an eye out for this year's Buffalo Bills. Obviously, Dalton Kincaid is one of them, but who are some other guys you would tell people to keep an eye out for this team that could surprise?
Yeah, I'll go one on each side. So offensively, I'll go off the top of my head here. I'm gonna go with Deontay Hardy. He's a guy that they brought in he's going to be the punt returner now with the Nyheim Hines injury. He has great explosiveness. He's had great statistics when he stayed healthy. 5'6" with a lot of speed. He's very, very tiny, but his ability to separate, he's got hops. He's snagged a couple of balls from Josh Allen throughout camp in the air where he got up and made a good play on the ball. So his yards after the catch ability, his ability to be that gadget guy you can give to on end arounds. I think he offers a versatile skill set that the Bills can utilize that they didn't really get from Isaiah McKenzie last year, just because I think he doesn't have the game sense that a Deontay Hardy does. Defensively, I'll go with a guy named Poona Ford. Came over from the Seahawks. He's going to be that guy that can clog up the run gaps in the middle. I think that's something the Bills have. They had Declan Jones last year, but Jordan Phillips was dealing with injuries all last year and had kind of trouble doing that. I think Poona Ford will solidify that. He's a big boy. He's looked good in camp. So yeah, I like what I see from Poona Ford. So those are two guys maybe under the radar that I think could be big contributions for the Bills this year on both sides of the ball.
I also, what do you feel about James Cook and Damian Harris? I like Damian Harris when he was with the New England Patriots, and I think James Cook has the potential to be 1,000-yard running back in this league.
Yeah, James Cook definitely has shown a lot this offseason. Again, he's so versatile. Damian Harris had 15 touchdowns in 2021 with New England. So his ability, again, he has the nose for the end zone that the Bills have kind of been missing. It's kind of been heavy reliant on Josh Allen, what he does with the ball, if he either runs it in or, throws the ball to a playmaker and they score the touchdown. But, yeah, I like what I've seen from Cook and Harris. I think Harris, again, will be utilized in the red zone. Brandon Beane said in an interview the one day on WGR 550 that it's going to kind of be a yin and a yang approach. It's going to be depending on matchups. I think both are going to be utilized quite frequently. The only thing I'm concerned with James Cook is his pass protection ability. Okay. Can he be able to withstand, those pick up those blitzers or those extra rushes that are coming at the quarterback? Is he able to do that? That's my biggest concern. But yeah, pass catching ability, his speed, his ability to elude guys in space. I mean, it's what you want from your running back one, and I think he's set for a big year as long as he gets the touches.
Yeah, because I'm an old school believer, and I love the passing game, but you also need a running game and have a balanced offense. Maybe not so much in the regular season, but in the playoffs when the weather gets bad, that's when you need a consistent running game. So I really think Harris is a good addition, and I do like James Cook, and he did have a nice run at the scrimmage game Friday night, and the speed-wise as well. Overall, what's your thoughts on the overall speed of this Buffalo Bills team heading into the 2023 season?
Yeah, you said the speed, sorry.
Yeah, the speed, like overall, like the defense, obviously Cook and Harris, but do you find
defensively? Defensively, I mean, yeah, they're going to be flying around. They're not really, the thing with the Bills is they're a bend don't break kind of defense. That's what they've been. They don't really kill you with speed. That's not their strong suit. They're more of like, hey, we'll let you go down the field, but we're going to make turnovers. We're going to create turnovers, and we're going to try to hold you when you get inside that 30, 20-yard line. We're really going to, attack. But I think, we will see a more aggressive Bills defense this year. That's what Sean McDermott has preached. I think that's kind of the goal. So you'll see more intensity in terms of pressure and stuff like that. So yeah, I really like what the Bills are going to hopefully be doing on defense this year.
All right. Thoughts on Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott both getting contract extensions, and do you feel this team is still an AFC contender and Super Bowl contender going into 2023?
Yeah, they're an AFC contender, and they're a top 3 Super Bowl. I mean, they're right there. I mean, the Chiefs definitely have the nod, and I think the Bengals are still ahead of them. But the Bengals lost there's two starting safeties this year. I still have questions about that offensive line. I think Burrow's a great player. But yeah, I think the Bills are right up there with those teams. They have all the talent in the world. I think every year they can make a push if they get lucky and can stay relatively healthy. I think there's no room for any like naysayers to be like this team. Like I think it's I would be more surprised if someone came out to me and said the Bills don't make the playoffs than if someone's like the Bills are going to win the Super Bowl this year. That's how like I kind of see it. I think there's more confidence in the building in terms of Super Bowl aspirations than missing the playoffs, and that's what I feel like is prevalent amongst the fan base. I don't think there's that many people worried about missing the playoffs. I think it's more of like, can they do it in January when it actually matters? Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott. Yeah, I mean, dude, they turned around a franchise after 17 years of subpar, below average, terrible quarterback play, and they've turned them into a team that's won the AFCs 3 years in a row. They should have in 2021. They should have beat the Chiefs with that 13-second debacle.
Yes.
So yeah, there's some concern because Sean McDermott's a defensive-minded coach and he hasn't been able to get over the hump. And some people compare him to Mike McCarthy out in the NFC. But I really like Sean McDermott. I don't think he's a top 5 coach, but I think he's an above-average coach in this league. And Brandon Beane, I mean, I have the most trust in Brandon Beane. He's been such a great general manager. He's drafted pretty well, not the greatest, but he's drafted pretty well. And then his free agent acquisitions and obviously, Josh Allen trading for Stephon Diggs. Those two moves obviously stand out. Getting Von Miller. So I think Brandon Beane's done a really good job as well, making this team a year in, year out contender, especially going up against the cap this offseason to bring in all the guys I mentioned previously. I have like a 95 out of 100 trust in Brandon Beane in terms of general manager going forward. I'll have like an 80 in Sean McDermott.
McDermott's former Eagle, too. He coached on the coaching staff in Philly from 99 to 2010, and he did learn under Andy Reid as well. And you know what? I think this combination between McDermott and Beane is the longest one in Buffalo since Bill Polian and Marv Levy, I believe, from 86 to 93.
Yeah, they're in the drought. They went through it like
tons.
A lot. Yeah, they went Doug Whaley and Rex Ryan, so they've done that a lot.
Okay. AJ, are you okay for 2 more questions? 2 more
Sure.
quick questions? Okay. That's what I wanted to ask you. What are your quick thoughts on the rest of the AFC East going into 2023? We know the Jets and their defense, and now Aaron Rodgers. Miami added Jalen Ramsey, and New England. They do probably have a really good defense, but I don't know if they can compete in that division yet. They didn't really add anybody to help Mac Jones out other than Bill Jones, their new offensive coordinator.
Yeah, the thing with the Patriots is they have a good coaching staff, and I think they'll always hang around. I think they can get to that 8 or 9 win mark. I just think there's enough talent in terms of the defensive side of the ball. I like Kyle Duggar, very versatile guy. Jonathan Jones is a good cornerback. Jabril Peppers is a guy that they can mix up. I think Kyle Duggar and Jabril Peppers, Adrian Phillips, Jalen Mills, those are all guys that can maybe prevent the Bills from doing a good job of using that 12 personnel. Those are like the guys they're going to use. Their linebackers aren't that good in coverage. But then obviously Christian Gonzalez, their first-round pick, who fell from Oregon. He was highly scouted as one of the top cornerbacks in this class. He fell to the late teens, early 20s, and the Patriots scooped him up. Matt Judon, one of the best edge rushers in the league. Christian Barmore again in the middle and the interior, and then Lawrence Guy on the edge. I really like their defense. I think they'll be a top 10 unit year in, year out. They always are. And then offensively, that's where I kind of struggle. Like Chris, like you said, they don't really have playmakers, that number one target for Mac Jones. But I like Ramondre Stevenson.
Oh, yes.
They brought in Mike Gesicki, and then they have Juju, Devontae Parker, Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton. So they have some guys, but yeah, not that like alpha. Moving on to the Dolphins, it all depends on, I think, Tua's health. I think if Tua can play smart football and stay healthy and get it into his playmakers' hands, I think they're a very hard team to beat. I think Javon Holland is going to come into his own this year. Byron Jones is a guy that's going to be back in the mix. The tight end, Durham Smythe, I don't know what they're going to really get out of that position. They kind of have a hole there, which kind of concerns me because Tua does like throwing over the middle. That's kind of like his bread and butter as a quarterback. But I really like what they have. Cedric Wilson, their offensive line's okay. I think all the offensive lines in the AFC East are kind of that 20 to 24 mark. 20, like they're not really impressive. They all have subpar offensive lines. I think the Bills actually have the most depth this year in terms of their offensive line. And then defensively, Christian Wilkins, Jalen Phillips, Jerome Baker, Bradley Chubb, Xavier Howard. So they have a ton of talent on the defensive side of the ball. Add that with Vic Fangio. I think that team could be special. And then the biggest threat, in my opinion, to the Bills is the New York Jets. I think Aaron Rodgers, again, I trust Rodgers more than Tua. I trust the Jets defense more than the Dolphins defense, especially with the Dolphins losing Ramsey for the majority of the year. And I think the Jets have just playmakers at every level. If they can bring on a Dalvin Cook, they already have Breece Hall in that backfield with Michael Carter. I think that's a great 1-2 punch. You add Allen Lazard. So they have a lot of talent across the board, Sauce Gardner, DJ Reed. So, they're just a really good team. And they're probably, in my opinion, the biggest threat to the Bills in the AFC East.
I tend to agree with you as well on that. And we're going to wrap this up. What will you miss most about the current stadium once the new one is ready by 2026?
I think I'll just miss just the nostalgia, just being able to go there. That's kind of where it's kind of a safe space for many people. It's kind of where you can get away and everyone comes together, and problems there's no one's really worried about anything else but what's right on the football field right in front of you. People are it's just going to be in the environment. It's not going to be the same, because you're not going to be able to walk up the stadium and same seats, different. It's just going to be a whole different experience in a new stadium, up to date. It's just going to be, I think, just the week to week experience that I'll truly miss the most. But I will say I am excited for a new stadium at the same time.
My first Bills game in Buffalo was September 21st, 1997, where the Colts were up 26-0 at halftime against the Bills, and Todd Collins, the Michigan alumni, who replaced Jim Kelly, who retired in 96. And the Bills came back in that game and won 37-35 in the greatest regular season comeback in Bills team history. And that's what I will remember the most, even though I'm an Eagles fan, that game, because not too many teams come back from 26-0 at home with a gentleman, with a quarterback, Todd Collins, who never panned out in Buffalo to replace Jim Kelly.
Nice. Cool. Yeah. I mean, my favorite game experience, witnessing a perfect game, and, I got there at about 2:00 that day.
Yeah.
And you're in negative 20-degree temperatures, and I'm pouring my drinks and they're freezing on impact. It was just they were frozen on impact. That whole experience that day, they didn't turn the ball over. They didn't punt once. They converted every third down. They scored on every single drive. I mean, that comes to me. Plus, it was the Patriots, so it's kind of like they owned the Bills for so long. So they, for fans especially, I think getting that payback with a perfect offensive game against the Bill Belichick-led defense was pretty cool.
That's a pretty good game too. And 20 years of frustration gone with that win as well. And finally, we'll wrap this up. Where can my audience follow you on social media? And tell my audience about your Buffalo Rumblings podcast show when it airs and where people can listen to it.
Yeah, so follow me on Twitter at Ajay Cybulski, so AJAY, and then last name CYBULSKI. Right at the bottom of the ticker there, Ajay Cybulski. And then, you can find me on the Buffalo Rumblings YouTube network every Monday nights at 7. My show is called Ajay's Analysis. Here's my little logo lit up right now. And then that's about it. I write for them. I'll be going to training camp the last day on Thursday. I'll have takeaway observation articles for you. That's basically what I do. I'll be covering the team all year. Every Mondays at 7. Writer, find me on Twitter. That's where you see most of my opinions, takes. I cover every press conference after every game. And all season long. So I'm really trying to dive into this year. I'm not in school anymore, so I can kind of focus more on this kind of stuff and give you as many updates and opinions and thoughts as I can. And
I'm learning how to do writing. So you have any advice for people that are getting into digital writing? I've done it for about a year now, but just any advice?
Yeah, my advice would just be tell a story, be unbiased, and don't put your opinion in the piece unless you're writing, obviously, an opinion piece. But just be able to put quotes together and kind of, the biggest thing is especially if you want to get into sports reporting and you're interviewing players and they're giving you these quotes, it's about putting that story together, finding the best quotes to put together to tell a story, and being able to introduce the quote, explain the quote, and kind of, just do a good job of that. Obviously, AP style is huge. Writing an AP style, so like 1 through 10 or 1 through 9, sorry, is all spelled out. And then after 10, you can just write the number down. There's a lot of AP style tricks that you need to master and get to really know. And once you do that more, you'll get used to it. And then the biggest thing for me, I think, is just reading articles, reading books, expanding your use of language and knowledge that you can consume when you're reading and constantly taking in information and your mind's working like that. When you're writing and you're going to sit down and write an article, it can help you do the same as well.
Okay, and I was approved for an NFL media pass this year, so I'm hoping I'll see you at Highmark Stadium for a game this year and a few other ones as well. And I'm looking forward to this 2023 NFL season. And AJ, I want to say thank you so much for coming on my 307th episode today, and I really enjoyed speaking with you about the Bills, and hopefully we can have you come back on again at some point during the season and talk about how your Bills are doing and maybe a little more NFL as well.
Yeah, I would love to. Look, I can talk. Trust me, when football season starts, I'm not just Bills. I'm watching every team, and I can talk about anything you want. But yeah, Chris, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure to meet you at the Red and Blue scrimmage, and I hope for your continued success and you continue to chase that dream of yours. And good luck with everything. And yeah, I'll hop on whenever you want. Maybe some point, maybe midway through the season, we'll give a little mid-season recap about the Bills. Maybe talk about your Eagles a little bit. I know the Bills and Eagles play this year.
November 26th. November
Yep.
26th. And I'm hoping to go to that game because I've got it circled. And the Eagles are going to be wearing their Kelly Green 90s throwback jerseys too for that game as well.
Yep. So yeah, looking forward to it. And again, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, AJ. And I will send you a copy of our episode in about a half an hour or so.
All right. Sounds good.
Thanks, AJ.
Later.
All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed season 6, episode 32 of Live with CDP Sports Talk tonight with my guest, Ajay Cybulski. He is a writer and a podcaster and with Buffalo Rumblings, and he covers the Buffalo Bills in the National Football League. And I want to say thank you so much to AJ coming on here today as well. All right, guys, before we end this show, I'm going to show you a clip of a live interview I did at Highmark Stadium on Friday's Bills scrimmage with a Bills Mafia fan that drove his family over 10 and a half hours from North Carolina down to see the Bills scrimmage game. His name is Alex Wittenhill out of Cary, North Carolina. So I'm just going to play the clip of interview I did with the Bills Mafia member.
Here live from Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York for the Buffalo Bills scrimmage today. And I have a special guest, and his name is Alex. He's from North Carolina. And Alex is a longtime Buffalo Bills fan. Alex, how did you become a Bills fan down in Carolina?
Actually from West Virginia.
Okay.
My mom was from this area. I've been a Bills fan since I was a kid. We moved up here when I was 15 years old. I lived here until I was 28. A couple years out of state, and then I moved down to North Carolina. Just so happened I happened to marry a girl that I went to high school with who was also a Bills fan in North Carolina. And we live in a town called Cary, which is right outside Raleigh. A ton of Bills fans. So it's always nice to come back. We always make any opportunity we can to come back to the stadium.
How long of a drive was it down here to see the scrimmage tonight?
About 10 and a half hours.
Wow.
Yeah, it's worth it though.
Absolutely. And what is your favorite Bills moment so far?
My favorite Bills moment?
Yeah.
Probably watching the Bills lose the Super Bowl 4 years in a row. When I was a kid, when we lived in West Virginia, my parents would have parties every year. It was always, this is the year, this is the year. And then lived through 17 years of them not winning, not even making it to the playoffs. And then when I lived in North Carolina, the year that my wife and I got married, they made it to the playoffs. That's Josh Allen was the quarterback. It was such an amazing experience. So I think just like that the 4 years not winning it, and then when they finally got to the playoffs again because of Josh Allen, priceless.
Thoughts on the scrimmage tonight here at Highmark Stadium, and are you excited about the new stadium being built across the street?
I'm so excited. I'm just worried about the parking. It's my only problem.
All right, and what are your thoughts on the 2023 Buffalo Bills?
Say that again?
What are your thoughts on this year's team?
You know, I'm excited about it. Last year was rough, especially how we ended the season. But, you know, there was a ton of adversity. I really think that the team grew a lot. with everything they went through with Mark Hamlin, everything like that. In my honest opinion, there's a lot of doubters out there for this year, but I think they're going to be as good, if not better, this year.
All right. Any last thoughts about the Buffalo Bills going into preseason?
Go Bills.
Well, Bill, Alex, I want to say thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, thank you.
Safe travels home, and hopefully we'll see you on social media.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that was courtesy of my YouTube channel, and that was Alex Whitting Hill from Cary, North Carolina. I met him and his wife and kids at the Bills red and blue scrimmage Friday night in Orchard Park, New York, and diehard Bill fans. And I would say the best three fan bases in the National Football League. Obviously, being an Eagles fan, Philadelphia, Green Bay, and Buffalo. Those are my three: Philadelphia, Green Bay, and Buffalo, the three best fan bases in the National Football League. It doesn't matter what I order. It could be Buffalo, Green Bay, and Philly, but in those orders as well, guys. All right. The next live is CDP Sports Talk, Season 6, Episode 33, sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet, Wednesday, August 9th at 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow, with hockey writer Kevin Allen from Hockey Buzz and Detroit Hockey Now, who covers the Detroit Red Wings and the National Hockey League. Kevin Allen was also the hockey editor and writer with USA Today for 34 years as well. So if you want to talk some NHL and Detroit Red Wings, Kevin Allen will be on my show tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern on Facebook. Hopefully, there's some issues with Facebook streaming tonight. So usually it's live streamed on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. And hopefully we'll get this issue with Facebook resolved for tomorrow's episode as well. So Kevin Allen tomorrow, 2 p.m., talking some National Hockey League and Detroit Red Wings as well. There was some news from the Detroit Tigers today. Former Detroit Tiger player and 1968 World Series champion and former Tigers color analyst on the Ticket 97.1 in Detroit alongside Dan Dickerson. Jim Price passed away today at the age of 81. So deepest sympathies and condolences to Jim Price's family and friends and to the Detroit Tigers organization. He was a great ball player, won a world championship in Detroit in 68, and was a longtime broadcaster for the Detroit Tigers, alongside Dan Dickerson for 24 years on 97.1 The Ticket in Detroit as well. So rest in peace to Jim Price as well. All right, guys, we're going to wrap up this show here soon. As always, Live with CDP Sports Talk is a weekly sports and entertainment talk show hosted by yours truly, Chris Pame, is on weeknights at 8 p.m. Eastern on WQEE 99.1 FM, the key, the home of Southern sports and talk, the heartbeat of Atlanta. Our website, on the radio station's website, I can speak, is WQEEFM.radio12345.com as well. Again, Live with CDP Sports Talk is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. I apologize today. There's an issue with the live stream feed on Facebook, so I will send a copy of this show to Facebook later on as well. You guys can also check out my website, beacons.ai/Chris D. Pame. All my digital content and previous podcast shows are on there. And you can find all my social media sites on beacons.ai, again, /Chris D. Pame as well. Live with CDP Sports Talk is brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out barrycullen.com for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles. And also, guys, there's a Summer Adventures event going on at Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now. 4.99% financing for up to 48 months on the 2023 Blazer RS model. So more details on that at barrycullen.com as well. You can also follow me on TikTok at Live with CDP. I post a lot of my player and coaches interviews and all my sports media work on my TikTok pages as well. So again, check me out on TikTok at Live with CDP. And I want to say thank you to my 1,452 followers on there as well. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports Talk. If you're no webinars or podcasting such as myself, check out StreamYard.com as well. And finally, guys, Live with CDP Sports Talk, the audio version is available on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Stitcher, Tuned In, and weeknights at 8 on WQEE 99.1 FM. Finally, you can email me or text the Live with CDP Sports Talk at cpalme19@gmail.com, or you can text the show at 519-820-7188. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions from the show, would greatly appreciate it. And again, I want to say thank you to everybody for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk. And this is my 307th episode as well, guys. NFL preseason this weekend. Obviously, since we did a Bills podcast tonight, the Indianapolis Colts take on the Bills Saturday at 1 o'clock at Highmark Stadium in Orchard Park, New York. And then the other game I'm looking at is the Philadelphia Eagles take on the Baltimore Ravens Saturday night in Baltimore. So preseason's here. And then we got the CFL going on. The Toronto Argonauts will be home this Sunday at 7 o'clock at BMO Field to take on the Ottawa Red Blacks. The Argos are now 6-1 after their 27 loss at the Calgary Stampeders, and hopefully Chad Kelly will be back behind the center Sunday. Fingers crossed. And speaking of the Toronto Argonauts, the next Toronto Argonauts Argo Bounce live audio show with my co-host Nick Small this Friday, August 11th, 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn, and hope you guys can tune in as we talk about the Argos 20-7 loss to the Calgary Stampeders and preview their game against Ottawa, and hopefully talk about Chad Kelly starting Sunday against Ottawa. So we'll see. But that's about it. I want to say again, thank you to my guest today, Ajay Cybulski, Ajay Cybulski. I apologize. I didn't mean to butcher his name. Thank you to AJ for coming on here today. Again, check out Buffalo Ramblings on Twitter and on their website as well. And it was great to talk some Buffalo Bills football with him today, too. And I'll just put his Twitter page. You can follow AJ on Twitter at AJ Cybulski, his name. And also, you guys can check out at the website, buffalorumblings.com. as well. And he does a great job covering the Buffalo Bills and the National Football League. So that's about it, guys. I'm wrapping up season 6, episode 32 today, but I want to say thank you again to everybody for watching and listening to Live with CDP Sports Talk. And thank you to our sponsorship, Barry Cullen Chevrolet here in Guelph, and on radio station weeknights at 8 on WQEE 99.1 FM. I hope everybody has a great evening, and we'll see you guys here tomorrow for season 6, episode 33, 2 p.m. Eastern, with Kevin Allen, hockey writer with Hockey Buzz and Detroit Hockey Now, and the former longtime hockey writer with the USA Today as well. Looking forward to speaking to Kevin Allen. Have a great night, everybody, and we'll see you tomorrow for another edition of Live with CDP Sports Talk.